It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. And continuing with our 1st and 10, let's hit it.
Number 4.
The run game has to be better. This is part design, part execution. I do think that there's certain run plays like counter that they run pretty well, and they don't seem to run a lot of. And I think yesterday they found something running out of or from under center. The angles are better. It's better vision for the running back. There's a lot of benefits to it. Unfortunately, most of their pass game is from the shotgun. It seems to be what Sam Howell likes. I don't think running out of the gun is also like the worst thing ever, but they're not good at it right now. And I don't know whether it's the backs don't fit what Bieniemy wants. I don't know whether it's being coached great. I mean, Randy Jordan's coached under 1,000 offensive coordinators, it feels like. It's really only been the different variations of Jay Gruden and Bill Callahan, and then obviously Scott Turner, and now Eric Bieniemy, here. I don't know. Are they getting it coached up right? Chris Rodriguez seems to have it better. Like, what is it that is causing this run game that should be potent with the backs they have to not be good? Is the line not getting any push? But whatever it is, it's got to be better. I'd also love to see Curtis Samuel get back involved in the run game. And you have to run him 3 times a game. That's fine with me. Like, figure out how to get a run game going, because that also can help your young quarterback out. Yesterday, specifically, things that held them back.
Number 5.
What was going on with the penalties yesterday on the offensive line? It seemed like they were spooked. Like, Charles Leno, you got to hold your stance, man. Andrew Wiley, hold your stance. Sadiq Charles, Sam Cosmi had one. You got holds, you got, false starts. You got everything yesterday. And it just seemed like the pressure, they were uncomfortable. And, that's what pressure does. And ultimately, if you want to take an even bigger picture at yesterday's game specifically, the Giants were the team that dictated the terms yesterday. And the penalties were a part of that. The Giants put the Commanders under pressure. They didn't respond well in their execution. And they couldn't even, get the snap off sometimes. That was, yeah. Oh.
Number 6.
The linebacker issues. They came out of last year saying they wanted to be better at linebacker. We all know what happened this offseason. They didn't do a whole lot. The guy they did sign finally started playing better in Cody Barton, and then he gets hurt yesterday. And then I see these very silly tweets that actually drive me nuts of, how come David Mayo's in coverage? Because he's a linebacker, and that's what linebackers do sometimes. You can't play your backup, expect him to be as good as your starter, and also ask him to not do the thing that's part of the job. He can't just blitz on every play. What do you want him to do? Yeah, the matchups aren't good sometimes. That's why he's a backup. But that's what happens when you don't address the position in the offseason. And oh, by the way, the guy who should be better at coverage, Jamin Davis, is probably responsible for both touchdowns that the Giants score. He plays with good leverage on the Waller touchdown. The idea there is, as the Tampa 2 player, he's dropping, and he correctly identifies the threat. He makes sure that Waller doesn't cross back in front of him and split the safeties in the middle of the field. He expects probably a little bit more help from Percy Butler out wide, but he's got receivers to deal with. And Jamin just runs 4 yards away from Darren Waller up the center of the field. That's the threat, man. You've identified it. You're good that you didn't let him cross your face, but you need to be a little bit, you need to be an arm's distance of his face so that if a ball gets thrown, you can whack it down. Not good. And then he got Saquon because that happens. I'm less mad about that. He got beaten one-on-one coverage by a guy who's a nightmare to deal with in one-on-one coverage. So, linebacker issues. Back at it yesterday. Sweet.
Number 7.
We'll talk about the John Allen comments later in the show. But it's actually something that Chase Young said after the game that has me miffed. And I'm genuinely confused by it. So I don't know if even miffed is the right word. Chase Young yesterday said a lot of the right things afterwards where, hey, how do you feel about your 2 sacks? Don't care. We lost. Okay, cool. But he said, I got to do a better job of leading by example in practice. What are you doing in practice, man? What is going on in practice that Chase Young is the best player on the field and doesn't feel like he's doing a good job of leading in practice? Intrepid... Paging all intrepid reporters.
Paging all intrepid reporters. Paging all intrepid reporters. What is happening at practice that Chase Young feels like there needs to be more focus and he needs to do a better job at practice?
Because one, if he's goofing around in practice or something or whatever he's doing in practice that he thinks he needs to do better at, what's everyone else doing that he's better than all of them when it comes to Sundays, or most of them when it comes to Sundays? And two, how good could he be if he starts applying himself if he's not in some way? Maybe Chase is just saying something, but like that one made my ears perk up. That was weird. I would like to know more there.
Number 8.
Number 8. We got the math right. Hooray! The defensive line as a whole, speaking of Chase and John Allen, they made plays yesterday. For all the ways that game went wrong, the defensive line did its job yesterday. Multiple sacks. They had pressure on Taylor on a bunch of other plays. They had tackles for losses. Like John Allen had one play in the start of the second half where he hits that hump move. He gets past his guard, and he just destroys Saquon 4 yards deep in the backfield. First play of the game, like Daron Payne is 4 yards deep in the backfield. The fumble Payne forces, good God. They needed that. That like kept them in the game, and then ultimately, obviously, the game-tying drive falls short as Jahan Dotson has the drop on fourth down. But like that play from Daron Payne is massive. Like this defense did, the line at least, did the things that you were supposed to do if you're them against that offensive line. Tyrod did a really good job of getting the ball out. They did a good job of moving the pocket. They did a good job with the offensive play calling to try to mitigate the O-line issues that they have. But overall, like the Commanders still found ways through all of that stuff to make plays. Good job, D-line, even though, as Chase said, doesn't matter, you still
Number
lost.
9.
I hated Ron Rivera's game management yesterday. Just the 4th and 3 at the beginning of the fourth quarter, go for that. Your defense is playing great. If you're at your own 9-yard line, you often in those situations can get touchdowns because they try to guard. Either you get a touchdown because they heavy guard the sticks on a 4th and 3 from the 9, or you have an easy first down because they guard the end zone. Like that is a great prime go for it situation. And if you miss, theoretically, it's probably an incompletion. It's their ball inside their own 10-yard line, and their offense hasn't done jack squat the entire half. Freaking go for it, man. And then I would also say that the decision to decline or to accept the penalty on the play before the Giants' first touchdown is a much more defendable mistake. It's going to be 4th and goal from the 2. Instead, it's 3rd and goal from the 15. They throw a touchdown to Waller. I would probably rely on the fact that they're not going to go for it there and just take the field goal attempt. And if they go for it, like your defense has been great in those situations. Okay, I'm willing to take that risk. It's the first quarter. If they get it, they get it. Cool. We'll go down and respond offensively. We don't know at that point that the offense is probably incapable of that. I did not like that decision. Last but not least, a shout out.
Number 10.
Tressway was great yesterday. Never great when your punter's setting personal best. He had 7 punts for 350 yards in the first half. He caused multiple fumbles because he just got the ball up in the wind at MetLife and let nature take its course. Tressway, excellent job to you yesterday, sir. That's 1st and 10. We do it the day after the game, each and every Monday here on the Team 980. 10 thoughts from the Commanders, in this case, loss. When we get back, Logan Paulsen's thoughts on the game. Take command on a Monday, a misery Monday, here on the Team 980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Thoughts from Logan Paulsen amidst Take Command in just a moment. First, though, actually, a bit of NFL breaking news.
Breaking news. Oh, snap, news is broken. Breaking news.
Kareem Jackson, Broncos safety, has been suspended 4 games for yet another brutal hit. He was ejected again yesterday. This perhaps could have been avoided if, I don't know, Anthony, they had suspended Kareem Jackson after he concussed Logan Thomas in week 2. Same dude. This is his 3rd time getting ejected this season.
Yeah, that's brutal. That is brutal. And it's about time, he gets some type of consequence.
It's just ridiculous. Like, I just do not understand as a player how you have that much reckless, how you have that much reckless nature, not just about the health and safety of your opponents, which by the way are your colleagues, like your fellow NFL players, but how about for yourself? It's truly amazing to me that this guy would put his own health at risk like that. What are you doing? I can't imagine just being like, I know what I'm going to do. And for the NFL, 4 games feels incredibly harsh. Unless, I don't know, did I misread that email? Was that like a drug suspension?
That's a great question.
Yeah, for violations of unnecessary roughness rules following the Sunday's game against the Green Bay Packers. Maybe if you had done this against Denver, or if you had done this after the Logan Thomas hit, you could suspend him 2 games. You wouldn't have had these issues. Instead, you wait again, and John Runyon, who is the Dean of Discipline, the NFL's Vice President of Football Operations, said it is a foul if player forcibly hits the defensive player's head or neck, area with the helmet, face mask, forearm, etc. On the play in question, you delivered a forceful blow to the head neck area of a defenseless receiver. Runyon noted that Jackson had multiple offenses for personal fouls this season for violating player safety rules, including a similarly flagrant hit in a Week 2 game against Washington for which he was disqualified. To go from 0 to 4 just feels like a lot. And I was screaming about it at the time. I don't get it. I mean, good that they did it now. Better late than never, but keep players safe. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's enough for me on that. Let's get to Take Command. It's important to remember this is immediately after the game last night. Emotions are still raw. Thoughts are still fresh. But this is how I felt after the game last night. And I do think that a lot of the stuff that Logan and I talk about is probably going to be how we feel today and certainly tomorrow as we can sit down to do our tape review podcast. So without further ado, Anthony, you got the audio over there. Sweet. It's time for Take Command here on a Misery Monday.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Welcome into Take Command. I'm Craig Hoffman. He is Logan Paulsen, and that game was not very good. It's the Instant Reaction Show. We're live on YouTube at the Team 980 and at 106.7 The Fan. Of course, if you got to scramble at some part of this and you want to make sure you catch the rest of it, this will be in full on the podcast feeds tomorrow. Or if you're listening tomorrow on the podcast feeds, this was live on YouTube last night. So there's that. All right, Logan, that's the housekeeping. They lost 14-7 to the Giants. This is the second time this year that they've lost to the team that I think most people think was the worst team in football at the time. We can parse out why the Giants maybe were a little underrated, who they played, all that kind of stuff. They started to turn the corner a little bit last week, a la the Bears the week before Washington played them. But at the end of the day, it's the same old story with this team. They gave up a ton of sacks. They didn't seem to be helping Sam out a lot. Sam wasn't helping himself out a lot. They make it interesting kind of at the end. And on a day where the defense played better, the offense stinks. When the offense plays well, the defense doesn't play well. They just cannot seem to, for years on end at this point, put together a complete football game, especially on a day where, because of the opponent, a lot of people thought they were very capable of putting a complete game together. That is the highest level thoughts from me. And I tried to also encapsulate some of the feelings, I think, of a lot of fans watching this. As you sit back and take it in through your analytical lens, what are your high level thoughts on this?
I think the thing for me that really sticks out kind of above all else is is that this, styles make fights. And we kind of knew, talking about in the pregame, talking about in the podcast in the week, that while the Giants don't look like a very good football team, and while it looks like the matchup favors Washington, I felt like they were looking at it through a defensive lens. They were looking at Washington's defense, in relationship to the Giants' offense. And I think there's been a pretty good precedent of that group being quieted, or the effectiveness of the defensive line specifically being quieted through game call, through game planning, and that's what the Giants did. And then on the other side of the football, you get Sam Howell, a young player, going up against a Wink Martindale-led defense, and the one thing Sam does not do very well is handle pressures. And so, this was exactly kind of like the thing that I think we both thought could happen in this game, in terms of if they choose to heat you up, which I think everyone thought that Wink would do that. This is going to be tough, and there needs to be answers.
Wink Martindale doesn't realize you don't have to blitz.
I mean, he didn't blitz versus Josh Allen, because Josh Allen is Josh Allen. And for him, not blitzing is 25% of the time.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Even when he doesn't blitz, he blitzes more than a lot of coaches.
Right, and so I think this is exactly was my worst fear. Is you get in these really weird game flow situations, you get in this habit of running the football on first down, you get in 2nd and 10. 2nd and 10 is, there's a very high statistical tendency here to throw the football on 2nd and 10. When you throw the football on 2nd and 10, Wink knows that he's going to heat you up. It's hard to kind of pass block these all out looks without quick answers. And then you're in 3rd and 15, and then you take another sack. And so I think that was again, worst case scenario, but it kind of unfolded before me as the game went on. And I think the thing that's kind of disappointing is that, I think everyone knew what was going to happen and still did it. And I think that's the thing that was frustrating. And again, we've talked about kind of high level things that could be done. I think you saw some of that stuff in the second half. They got really
frustrating.
They got really sprint heavy in the second half as a way to manage the rush. But, maybe that's something that should have been talked about earlier in the week. I'm not sure. But, that's kind of my thought, is that this was a game that that Vegas had close, that we thought could be close if it played like this. And it played exactly like that. It played exactly like the way it needed for the Giants to win the football game. And it's not like they got lucky. It's that's what the Giants do. They run the football. They're not super efficient offensively, but they kind of go on long drives. They possess the football. They found some ways to make explosive plays. That's how teams that are not as good win. And the crazy thing is they only scored 14 points. 14 points in that game. So,
you just had to not stink offensively. And there was one way to make sure that you didn't stink, which is protect Sam at all costs. And they failed. They just flat out, from a planning standpoint, failed to do that. And this is, I'm going to use this word, and I'm going to use it in a professional sense. I'm not calling Eric Bieniemy this in his character, who he is as a human. But professionally, as a play caller, there is an arrogance that bothers me. And when you look at that and you go, we're just going to do what we do, that's arrogant. There's no word for it. You just have to be able to look at it and go, yep, no, that their strength is our weakness. How do we mitigate their strength and hide our weakness? Instead, it was no, we like to drop back pass. We think we have whatever matchups, whatever. And you just set Sam back there to get annihilated. And played particularly well. I also know they're up for success. And when you have 6 sacks, pressure, and all this stuff, there's enough blame to go around. Where some plays that are going to wind up being on the line, there are some that are going to wind up being on Sam. It's bro, you're under fire. When your back foot hits, you've got to get the ball out somewhere. So there's some of that. But there's also just an unwillingness to use the run game. And especially from under center, they had more success from under center when they started going to that. And the screen game, which was supposed to be a big part of their offense, allegedly, that is every Madden play caller's favorite response to pressure is dream. They're going to send a bunch of dudes. Let's throw it over their head 5 feet and run the other way. Their first screen is on to Antonio Gibson, I think in the second half or late second quarter.
Quarter.
3rd and 20. It's where is that in a 2nd and 8 where Wink's trying to heat you up and get you in 3rd and 13? That kind of stuff just didn't happen There's no easy answers. And as a result, it looked like an offense that was lost. And I can't understand how you have that plan going into that game. And once you see like, nope, that ain't going to work, how you don't go to plan B much faster, because they clearly, whether they had to draw it up or they went it, that what they were going to in the late third, fourth quarter, like where their last 25 plays are part of an 8 and a 17 play drive. If that's your game, you get some field goals, like you probably punch it in, you're in dangerous positions far more often. Instead, they didn't threaten the entire game, and that's how you wind up losing 14-7 to the New York Giants.
Yeah, and I think, like I share a lot of those same frustrations. And I think the thing I just want to point out, and I have to remind myself when you're coming out of this game, is there are answers for blitzes and drop back concepts, right? Like there's hot routes, there's flat routes, there's quick throws, and there's side adjustments. There's all sorts of stuff that could have been going on in this game that we can't see from the TV copy. So while I am frustrated, like I know I've been a part of offenses that are pretty detailed with regards to drop back stuff and pressure. So I'm waiting to reserve judgment, but the stuff about the screens, I think is.
But here would be my pushback, Logan. Even if those answers exist within the offense, he hasn't used them well. He being Sam hasn't deployed them well all year. At some point as the play caller, you have to stop the definition of insanity thing and try to stop doing the same thing, expecting different results.
I guess what I'm saying is that, like, for example, let's just say, I don't know, like any concept you want to run. Let's talk about bow, right? We're running bow concept. It's a 5-yard sit and a dig behind it, and we got a flat. This week, we're talking about, hey, like there's different points of emphasis versus different coverages for the same concept. And so
Sure.
if I'm EB, like I might have emphasized it, we might have talked about it. Sam in his presser kind of alluded to like we had a plan. It didn't go the way we thought. We had to adjust. And so I'm gonna wait until I see what the plan was allegedly, and then we can talk about that. But I still think, to your point, like there's other tools in the box. You know what I mean? It doesn't need to be, not every, like I know this is an old adage, like when a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Like kind of what this felt like. It's like sometimes, hey man, let's get to that screen. Let's get to that sprint. Let's get to that keeper. Let's do something different to change the launch point. Play action pass where you kind of do a half roll. Like I call it a waggle. Like that stuff is important. It's impactful. And to your point, it felt very stagnant. And again, game flow might have been a contributor to that because they were in like a whole and outs, like kind of back to back to back to back. And, they didn't run the football super effectively in the first half. Like, to be honest, like as much as I want to say, like, you need to be better there, like, because like you run the ball on first down for a no gain, it's 2nd and 10. Like, and that's just been the kind of the MO for the last, 6 quarters, quite frankly, since the Falcons game. So, like, obviously that's an area that needs to improve. And I think that will improve. Like, this is an NFL organization and these are smart people. They'll make it happen. But I think to your point, like, you might have had a plan in the context of these plays, these dropbacks, but I also think however good that plan is, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like this actually happened to me recently when I was coaching in the high school. Like I had a plan. I was like, if they're going to line up like this, we will absolutely dice them. And then they changed their coverage for us. And I didn't have a good answer. And I felt like I had my pants down a little bit and I couldn't make adjustments because it's high school. You can't make a dime really the same way you can as in the NFL. But this stuff does happen. You're like, this is a really good solution to what they're presenting, and it just doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, and then you got to adjust. And so I think, like to your point, I think I agree with a lot of that. Earlier screens, earlier rolls, earlier keepers, earlier waggle, all that stuff super important. But I'm not going to hopefully they did have a good answer in some of that drop back stuff, and we'll see. And maybe in the film review, it's like, no, they didn't. And then what was?
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I want to know how many quick comebacks they have, how many slants they have. Like, where's the shallow crosses? Where's the stuff that could have gotten the ball out of Sam's hands quickly? And I don't feel like it was there. Like, it's not like there's a couple of times, sure, where there's guys right in front of Sam. You're like, dude, just throw it. But it definitely seems like there's a lot of like empty screen where those guys belong and blue jerseys piling on top of Sam Howell. I think that my other frustration, though, is like, what are the best stretches of offense they've had this year? Eagles game. They had a stretch against Atlanta at first half. And then obviously the stretch against Denver. All of those, maybe with the exception of Denver, those good stretches they've had have been with a good heavy dose of the quick stuff that gets the ball out of Sam's hands. And the other one is against the Broncos, who were maybe the worst defense in football and certainly were playing like it at the time.
Sure.
So I just, what I don't like, I don't pretend in my chair that I have all the answers. I know that
Right.
Eric Bieniemy knows more football than me, but sometimes I just feel like from our chairs, for whatever reason, like it's a forest through the trees thing where we have a better feel for what works. And it's like, I can look at the trend when Terry's involved, when you get the ball to these guys early, the offense goes better. And sometimes that's forcing it a little bit, but like, that's why Terry's Terry. When he got involved in the game, their offensive fortune started to change. So how do you get him involved in the game earlier? Like, to me, that's how I would be thinking about this offense. And it just seems like we're going to drop back, read it out, and see what happens. And what's going to happen is Sam's going to continue to take a record number of sacks. And instead of he's on pace to be David Carr, he's going to be David Carr. Like,
Right.
don't do that to Sam. That's not fair to him. And you just got to, and we talked about this in one of the commercial breaks during pregame, where it's just like, if you're giving up 9 sacks at some point as a coordinator, that's on you. There's like no execution level that you go, that's 100% on the players just not executing. You have not set them up for success. And they did change stuff up in the second half. Like Logan Thomas, it was Andrew Wiley. I heard in the locker room talking about it. Like, they did keep tight ends in. Like, they were able to stem it after the first drive of the second half. Why did it take so long? And that's something that we're going to have to figure out on the film review to an extent. But like, philosophically, there is no good answer. Like, it clearly wasn't working.
Yeah, but again, like you said, I always, with coaches and this kind of stuff, I always kind of give them the benefit of the doubt until I watch the film. And I do think that they must have had some solution. They must have had some reasoning for why they were doing the things they were doing. And hopefully we can kind of distill that down for you in the podcast on Tuesday. But I think, like, to your point, like, you made some adjustments, you made some changes, and it works a little bit better in the second half. And even that is not great. It's a little bit
They still scored
methodical.
7.
Yeah, it's a little methodical, a little bit deliberate, but it was a frustrating game to watch as a fan of the team and a fan of offensive football. And I'm sure the players feel very frustrated too about it. And I'm sure EB's frustrated. Like, no one wants, like, speaking from experience, like, no one wants to go out as an offensive football player and score less than 25 points. Like, no, like, any outing like that, like, I've been a part of some bad offenses, and every one of them makes you feel sick because, football is like the consummate team game. It's consummate, right? And so when I go in the locker room after a game like this, I look at the defensive players and I would just say, like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, we dropped the ball because you did your deal. You kept them to 14 points. You made some really critical plays in critical situations. Special teams, same thing. Tress punted his leg off, did a great job. They recovered that muff punt. That's all good stuff. And again, I'm sure people are going to be critical of the defense, especially in the first half. But I go
They
back
were also,
to
it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Like,
Yeah,
Tress
they were
punted
on-
7 times, and it just felt like they ran out of gas because they were on the field so much.
I agree. And so, and as an offensive player, it's just like, man, and as an offensive staff, it's like, like, we just didn't do what we needed to do. And I think the thing about the NFL is, like, this game's going to flush pretty quickly for them because they got a tough one coming up next week. They're going to get back to the drawing board, and that's the process. But in the meantime, I do think I'm sure everyone's disappointed who's involved in this because it's like they had a plan, whatever the plan was, and it just didn't execute the way they thought it would. And
Yeah.
that's tough.
I just think it's,
tough.
yeah. And I know this one definitively, we have to wait till Tuesday, but sometimes the plan is not a good plan.
That's
And,
true.
like-
But I will say, like, and again, like, we're just talking ball here. This is probably the most honest I've been on this show. Is you think the plan's good on Tuesday or Wednesday? You know what I'm saying? You think that it's the right thing, right? And you believe in it. You spend all this time with it, and it's just tough, man. It's disappointing. It's disappointing when this is the result for sure. And again, like, a lot of people are going to be pretty upset about it. So.
Apparently, John Allen's one of them. This quote from the
Yep.
locker room that William just shared with us. Since we're live, William, I'm just going to say bleep myself as opposed to making you do this later. I'm bleeping tired of this bleep. I'm bleeping tired of this bull. It's been 7 bleeping years of the same bleep. I'm tired of this bleep. Yeah. John's been here for 7 years and it's the same stuff. And individually, like, yeah, he's played pretty well through most of it. So I can understand where you just look around and you're like, all right, I'm doing everything I can. Like, what the hell? Fans between 1 year and 70 years for some
Right.
people, it's felt like the same thing. And I get the frustration, and I think that it's important to remember that, like,
If you want, you get the one or two yahoos that are like, if this is the Josh Harris era, then what's the difference? He took over the team on the day before training camp. This is entirely the old operation from a football standpoint. You need an off season, but like that's been my whole thing. Like why I'm so frustrated watching this team is because there's not really a lot anyone can do. Like it is fun to me. This is 100% me speaking. I think this team is fundamentally flawed. I think they're flawed in their makeup. I think their roster is fundamentally flawed. I think the coaching staff is fundamentally flawed. And there's not anything you can do about any of those problems right now. All you can do is week to week hope that they overcome themselves, that they play up to their potential. But here's the thing about average coaches, average players, you know, whether you want to use the word average, mediocre, lackluster, whatever, depending on who we're talking about here, is they're in the league because they're talented. They're in the league because they're capable of good things. But the great ones do it every week. And so you're going to get a week here and there where they convince you that they're good and that they're worthy of your time and your energy and all that kind of stuff. And then a lot of other weeks are going to look like this because every other team has the exact same guys, except for like 5 teams who are actually genuinely really good and like 3 more who are actually genuinely terrible. And so, yeah, could they go out and compete with and beat the Eagles next week? They absolutely could, which is why we watch, because it's fun that way. But like you're also not immune if you go beat the Eagles from another performance like this. You don't ever figure it out in this league. You just are right more often than you're wrong, or wrong more often than you're right, and the rights and wrongs come together to be your record at the end of the season.
All right, that is from Take Command. If you want the rest of the podcast, when there's plenty more good stuff, another 15 minutes worth of content, make sure that you check it out in the Take Command podcast feed. When we get back, Michael Phillips joins us here on The Hoffman Show.
To warn you, bro, it is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who was a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the Bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get it shut down, you're probably the one getting thrown out. It is what it is right now. It's weird, but Nashville, baby. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I will add one more small part to this story, and this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got quality Yates reaction. Part two, as we leave the hotel the next morning to go to breakfast. Remember, the wall's very thin. So it's not going where you think it's going. But as we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice, you know, it's been proven that the later groups stay out and make noise and all this stuff at their bachelorette weekend, the higher the divorce rate.
Oh God!
In the wedding,
so
and also the better
trash,
chances,
basically.
and also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. Okie dokie. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
Yeah, she didn't have a lot of tolerance for the woo girls. They say on the internet, like, feel free to post stuff, you know, like your friends' photos, do whatever. But like whatever you do for your own well-being, don't read the comments. Comment section, bad idea. What do we do?
We read those comments, baby.
That is exactly what we do. That was a little bit better. I still feel like that one was a little muted. I think Sometimes it feels like you build yourself up a little too much, and then sometimes you
Because
don't
I ain't
quite
want to
go
go
for it.
screaming all the way. The thing is, though, my mic is a little lower than yours, so maybe I could have actually, did what I really.
Mike
set out
also
to do.
moves. You can go, ooh.
Did you know you could play tricks with a microphone?
I think I'll try that next time.
Okay. You want to give it another shot? Or you
We read those comments, baby.
There we go. All right. I feel. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. Of course, if you missed any part of the show, highlights on my page at Craig Hoffman. 5 o'clock every single day, we bring an elevated level of expertise, a thing that is quite ironic and hilarious to stumble on, especially since we say it 5 days a week. On Mondays during football season, that expert is Michael Phillips, and it is time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Miguel, ¿cómo estás, señor?
Well, the team's been better. I'm actually doing great at the moment. My daughter made a loaf of homemade bread, and I just dug into a slice, and so life's pretty grand here.
What kind of bread?
I mean, white, I guess is the answer here. I don't like. Yeah, we're not dealing with like focaccias and sourdoughs and ethnicities here. It's pretty white. I think it's the answer.
White. White. Apparently, white in every sense of the word.
Absolutely, that's how we roll.
Yeah, focaccia is really not that hard to make. Just I know because I've made it, and it can't be that hard because I've made it.
I'm batting a 0 lifetime in attempts at making bread, so I'll take your word for it.
Okay, we'll get Michael a focaccia recipe. We'll check back in next week on that because it's got to be better and at least more fun than talking about what we're about to. Your highest level thoughts on what you witnessed yesterday at the Meadowlands are?
Yeah, just disappointed. I mean, a couple of weeks ago I was griping. It's year 4 of this defense, and they're still starting slow, and the slow starts persist for across the roster. And as I wrote in my piece and we talked about today on the radio, Eric Bieniemy had a bad day. This was his worst game as the Commanders play caller by far, in my opinion. It was also the worst game for the offensive line. Those two probably coincide to a certain degree. But, in a season where the bright spots were going to be the development of Sam Howell and finding out whether Eric Bieniemy could coach, we didn't learn anything about Howell yesterday, and it was a real step back on Bieniemy. So frustrating.
So Michael Phillips is with us, host of MP on the Mic, 910 The Fan in Richmond. He's also writing for the rest of the season for the Washington Times. So you can read him, you can listen to him in all of those places. That is what I thought coming out of the game yesterday as well. And upon second watch and a little bit of film study, as much as I've been able to do so far, and talking to Logan a little bit, I actually think that the main culprit yesterday was Howell. Why do you think it was Bieniemy?
Yeah, so and I'll give you your argument too that Howell could have adjusted the line, slid, did not recognize where they were coming from. I think all of those were very real problems. I feel like Bieniemy's job is to identify that things are not going well and to call plays that will put them in a position to succeed. And I would just hold up that second quarter as an example of those plays had no chance of succeeding from the time they were called. Now, if you want to make a big picture argument, he was letting the kid work through some things, learn some things, maybe that paid off later. Okay, sure, maybe. But he didn't call plays that put his team in a position to win the game. He did not get the ball to Terry McLaurin properly. He did not establish the run properly. And all of this mixes in with, I feel like it's almost a waste of airtime to say the offensive line is bad, because surely none of your listeners are undecided on this point at this juncture of the season. But how bad they were I also have not rewatched the whole thing, but boy, somebody was losing a one-on-one matchup every single time. It was embarrassing.
Yeah, there was definitely some of that. There were also times, though, that blitzes were not accounted for. And I think the reason that I came back on some of the Bieniemy criticism and put this more on Howell is my counter to your, and to be clear, because I already got some of this on Twitter, which is the place that you go for positive reinforcement, is that I can't believe you said Bieniemy called a good game. I never said he called a good game. I said he called a much better game than I thought he did yesterday. Is if you think he should have called plays in a way that does something better than what they did, what are those plays? Because the plays that I thought they should have run, when you go back and look, they ran a lot more of them than I thought, and they couldn't execute jack diddly poo. And at some point, I guess the question really is, Michael, and this might be the question they're asking themselves, is what play is it that you think that you can execute well? What's the play that they didn't call that they should have? And outside of the obvious of the screen game, which I'll give you.
Screen game and force feeding Terry McLaurin. I mean, they did not. And Jahan Dotson noted after the game, they never really gave those guys a chance to get behind the defense, and it may have been too big of an ask. That's receivers asking for something that may not have been possible. But you just can't have a half a football where there's one target to Terry McLaurin and he doesn't catch it. Again, this is the guy from the couch saying just throw it to Terry McLaurin. I understand that there are a lot of logistical reasons why that may not have happened. But I think the broader critique can still stand as valid. You get the ball to Terry McLaurin, involve that screen game. I wish they would throw it to B-Rob more. I think he's got really nice hands. I think we sleep on how good he is in that role and getting him rolling a little bit in space. I think those are all potentially good things for the offense. But yeah, overall, I mean, we are rearranging the deck chairs here as this ship sinks, because I think there are some fundamental issues that are seeping through, and there probably aren't a lot of winning combinations to dial up. You're just picking how you're going to dial up a losing combination in some of these situations.
That's for sure. And I think that sometimes the answer to get the ball to Terry or B-Rob or whoever else you want to say is Sam's got to decide to throw it there. The Giants played a ton of press man coverage. In press man, the read is whoever you want, typically. Sure, there might be safety shaded here or there, plug players, things like that. We can get into the schematics of it. But I think what's going to be interesting when we go back and watch it is there's going to be a lot of opportunities where Sam could have picked this matchup and he could have just picked Terry. And maybe I think you can definitely make an argument that if you're EB, do you go to Sam and go, look me in my eyes. If it's man coverage, who do you throw to? And you make Sam say, like, it's like a kid in a cartoon writing 17 on the chalkboard 100 times. It's like, throw the ball to 17, throw the ball to 17. But, like, I do think some of those play calls were available, and it's ultimately got to be on the quarterback to do the right thing. And we can't just exonerate him because he's young. And we have to at some point acknowledge there's a baseline of quarterbacking that you have to be able to do in this league, and he didn't do it yesterday.
It's one of the debates we had on the show today was, would it be productive? Because I think just watching the game in person, there were times when he probably should have made a different read or had a guy momentarily and either couldn't pull the trigger on it or just was too shaken, was seeing ghosts, to use the old Sam Darnold phrase, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's rattled back there. Is there any merit to shutting him down for a week, especially with Philly coming to town here, giving him a breather and letting him regroup? Now, the counterpoint is you run the risk that if there's even a moderately good game coming out of Jacoby Brissett, you ignite something here that you don't want to ignite in any way. But I think it's at least a fair discussion to have at this juncture, whether a week off to regroup, to catch his breath could serve the kid some good.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you were going to do that yesterday during the game would have been the move. Like, after the first sack in the second half, you just go, hey, man, like, today's not your day.
Yeah, but they could have won the game. They could have won the game.
They probably would have had a better shot to win it if Jacoby Brissett was in there because he's a veteran who's seen some stuff.
But isn't that a problem if Jacoby Brissett wins the game?
I think you can just go, hey, Sam was having a bad day. We're gonna stick with him. He's our guy. Just like today wasn't his day. It happens with young players sometimes, and we thought that it was better for Sam and better for us if Jacoby finished this one. And luckily, we were right on that part, and hopefully, we're right on the other part in the long term.
Yeah, I just feel like they probably don't want to even crack open that box the tiniest bit. Just this is a coach who's very aware of what people are saying. You know that, I know that.
Oh, yes.
He's tuned in, and to even crack that box open the tiniest bit, I feel like would be counterproductive to what he's trying to accomplish, the narrative he's trying to push about this team, which you went hard on today, right? This is a young team, and we're going to let them grow and take lumps together. And ultimately detrimental to his long-term case, that he's assembling the team of the future here. If you're slapping in Jacoby Brissett and trying to chase some short-term wild card game.
So that's actually what I wanted to ask you next. Michael Phillips with us, MP on the mic, 910 The Fan in Richmond. Listen, 10 a.m. to noon on the free Odyssey app, or, of course, on the radio if you're driving through Richmond, and you can read him in the Washington Times. You're on that conference call today. I mean, Ron's first answer is about where it's all about developing the young quarterback. Like, what do you make of that at this point after you've come off your second embarrassing loss in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, look, he this is a man who never lacks for reasons why things are going the way they are, and this is the easiest card to play at this juncture, right? Like he's young, he's developing. Thankfully he didn't go too far into like the team is young and developing. He did keep it Sam focused because man, it just like I'm not a like rant on the radio guy. That's not my style.
Oh, but Michael, when you have multiple hours to fill every day, it will get the best of you eventually. Just you wait.
Oh, no, it's already gotten the better of me for sure. But like when he's, we're trying to build something here, buddy. It's year 4. It's year 4, buddy. No, we're not playing that game. This isn't New England after Brady where we're taking some shots trying to find some guys. It's year 3 of not having a quarterback, but look, I've been trying. They're just all duds. I mean, this is a guy who has built the roster to his specifications, has called basically 100% of the shots, and is dealing with the fallout now of a roster that was unable to beat a really uninspiring New York Giants team. I think that just needs to be said. Nobody is coming out of this game, Craig, saying, wow, the New York Giants, hey, could they make a run? Is this a sleeper team? Nobody's saying that because they're not good.
No, they also gifted them a fumble in the red zone and a muffed punt yesterday, and the Commanders still only scored 7.
I believe you've omitted that time Kayvon Thibodeau had an easy interception that hit him in the chest, and he decided not to catch it.
Yes, that was also bad. Although not a slam dunk pick 6 like they made it sound on the broadcast. John Bates was right there.
Slam dunk pick 6.
Yeah, John Bates was there for for a tackle. And we all know for the Giants to gain the remaining 14 yards would have been an uphill battle for them. So I just feel like
Probably
that's
a
important to point
3-point
out.
play. Probably left 3 on the board there.
Yeah. It just replaces the 3 that they had on a missed field goal earlier in the game. And oh, by the way, the Commanders had a 27-yarder blocked. Don't you just chip that over the line? Like how does the 27-yarder get blocked?
And we talked to the offensive line after the game, and they said that, obviously we'll have to look at the tape, but they felt like they held at the distance they normally do. They were a little surprised by it as well, which, it was a busy day for special teams yesterday. The one exception to that being the time right before halftime when Ron Rivera decided instead of letting Jamison Crowder attempt a punt return, he would just go to the locker room.
Yeah, that was silly. I'm fine with getting to the locker room. Like, if Jameson doesn't bring one back, then just take a knee on it.
Of course.
But I guess you're also risking a punt. Like, that to me is the third worst decision he made in the game. I'd like to run through the other two real quick, and then we'll let you go.
I know 4th and 3 will be on the board, obviously.
What do you make of the 4th and 3 call not to go? That's when the field goal gets blocked. Ultimately, you don't know that beforehand. But beforehand, I didn't like the call to go for the field goal.
I was surprised that the analytics weren't stronger towards it. I think the New York Times thing swung at 2 points on the win percentage. ESPN swung at 4 points on the win percentage. I really thought it would be bigger. I think that may account for the fact that they were struggling to gain yards. That may have been baked into the equation there. Both sets of analytics are very clear, though. You go for it there in the flow of the game. You go for it there. Now, one alternative reality here. If they had gone for 2 after they scored the first touchdown and it was 14-8, then I think we can have a discussion. But cutting it to 4 at that point really does not accomplish anything.
Yeah. And then the other one that I think is interesting to examine, which definitely the wrong move in the benefit of hindsight because the worst possible outcome happened. But there's a penalty on 3rd and 5 or 3rd and goal from the 5 that Ron declines. That Ron accepts on a Tyrod Taylor scramble. The next play, instead of being 4th and goal from the 2 and probably a field goal attempt, is the Darren Waller touchdown. What did you make of the decline the penalty decision?
In the moment, I said they should have declined it. It was about the 2.5. I know those things aren't super important, but they are important. That it was not a tush-push quarterback sneak level of touchdown. It was a full-on. They were going to have to run a play and get the touchdown. And I think given the way the game was going, I think they probably would have kicked the field goal. I would have declined and let him kick the field goal. And honestly, if they wanted to go for it, I think I would have been comfortable with that too from the 2.5. I think you can probably line up, that's number 3 on my list of if I'm ranking these as 1 through 3, that's my number 3 with the halftime timeout being number 2. But it was confusing at the time why you would give them an extra play, especially given the way the secondary has collapsed in bigger spaces.
Yeah. So all in all, a game with no redeeming qualities. That was yesterday. How about that for a headline? Tress was great yesterday.
Tress is back.
Far too much
needed
Tress.
That too. I know people just assume he's good. He's actually kind of been up and down this year. He needed that.
Yeah, hopefully he's now up, but also hopefully we don't find out because they'll stop punting so damn much.
That'd be nice.
Michael Phillips, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Last week, you were at a golf tournament. Anything to watch out for this week? And how'd the interview with the artist that neither of us had heard of go?
And the interview with the artist Noah Khan.
Yeah,
Noah
Khan.
Which you've heard the song. The song is Dial Drunk. You've definitely heard it. It's very popular.
Okay.
He was great. He was super chill. Hung out. We had a great interview, a great time. So it's good content, as they say in the radio biz. This week I am back in Ashburn on Wednesday. Triumphant return to the media room after a season away. I think I'm going to bring some much needed juice to the room here. Get us a little mid-season bump. Maybe make some things happen up there.
I love it. That's so good. The room needs a bump. It's a lot of negative, sad energy in that room. It's because they have to cover the football team in the other building across the parking lot. Michael Phillips, everybody, read him. Washington Times. Listen to him on the free Odyssey app on 910 The Fan down in Richmond, 10 a.m. to noon daily. Michael, thank you, sir. I'll either talk to you later in the week on your show or back on this one next Monday.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, it's Michael Phillips, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. When we get back, so about that thing John Allen said. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. I am Craig Hoffman, host of this radio show. That's Anthony Haney, producer of this radio program. John Allen said some stuff yesterday. Anthony, did you hear about that?
Of course I heard about it, man.
Yeah. When did you hear about it?
I was browsing Twitter probably during like the 4 o'clock hour, like after the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I stumbled upon it. I think JP
conducted the interview, but like Nikki and a couple of others had tweeted it out as well. So
that's probably what it
because
was.
stupid Twitter algorithm as opposed to like us getting things chronologically. Who knows where you saw it first?
Yeah. Too much going on. You got Threads, you got Instagram Reels, you got TikTok. Like, probably made its rounds, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I know TikTok was.
Yeah. I didn't find out about it until we were live on YouTube for the Take Command postgame show. And our producer, William, put it in our private chat. And I was like, I cannot read this verbatim because we are live, and thus we cannot bleep it later.
Yep.
So we read it with a lot of bleeps, but in case you haven't heard it, here's what John Allen said with the bleeps.
They whooped our ass, plain and simple. Got to be better.
Anything they did that surprised you guys early on?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think it's just a lack of focus on our part, a lack of attention to detail, not starting fast, and creating holes that are too big for us to overcome in the second half.
Does it get frustrating when that?
It does. I'm tired of this bull. It's been 7 years of the same tired of
What can you do now going forward to get it turned around?
Get our minds right and get ready to play in Philadelphia.
That's the route. That, honestly,
get our minds right and get ready to play in Philadelphia.
That goes in the hype video for this week if you're the Commander social team.
You think so?
Yeah.
Get our minds right and get ready to play in Philadelphia.
I'm pumped up on that part. But, like, can you imagine being John Allen or Daron Payne and playing at Alabama, or Terry McLaurin and playing at Ohio State, and you lose, like, 3 games in 4 years maybe, and then you come to this crap? I just can't imagine. And, like, if you're John, you're a leader, you lead by example, you do the right things, you play hard, you're the best player on the defense for multiple years running. And you just look around and you're like, is anybody going to come with me? All right, I got Payne with me. I got my boy Payne with me. Sweat's here sometimes. Chase seems to be doing some stuff, but also he presents some complications. Is there ever going to be someone playing behind us that's good? Directly behind us? What's going on outside? Kendall Fuller's back. That's cool. How is he still our best corner? He left and came back. And, oh, by the way, is anybody ever going to figure out the offensive thing? Like, I just imagine that's so frustrating. And the NFL is hard. And, like, that's the thing. Is like, the thing that nobody here wants to say is that there's a lot more teams around the league that are like the Commanders from a football sense than anyone would want to admit. Like, are they having the same conversation in Indianapolis? A different version of it. Are they having the same conversation in
Pittsburgh?
I mean, yeah.
Their offense stinks.
Their offense has been terrible under Matt Canada for years. And, like, that's a franchise that's used to winning. Mm-hmm. And they've got this defense. They've got this guy in TJ Watt who's, like, a generational player. And it's like, if we could get anything on offense, he's a one-man defensive wrecking crew. And they have been poop on offense for years. Like, I just can't imagine the frustration if you're a guy like Allen. But also, like, I also wonder what's going on behind closed doors, that it's not clicking for other people. Like, what is the standard? And, you know, that's what I don't get. And I also feel like there's more than one way to do this. And I think this is a really important point. Not everyone has to do it the Saban way, the Belichick way, the McVay way, the Kyle Shanahan way, the Andy Reid way. There's obviously, I just named a bunch of ways that have been successful. There's different ways to do it. But, man, if you're used to the Saban way and now all of a sudden you got the Rivera way and the Rivera way ain't working, that's how you wind up post-game with
frustrating when that
it does. I'm tired of this bull. It's been 7 years of the same tired of
Yeah. And, of course, in the Twitter replies, it's 7 years, try 30, try 40, try 50 for fans that have been going through this forever. NBC4, JP Finley, courtesy of The Sound. Appreciate JP sticking his mic in John Allen's face and sticking with it. By the way, how about JP John unloads that, and he's like, so what do you do about it? That's reporting right there, kids. That's reporting. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, Anthony might say that about his picks. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, get your headphones on, sir. It's time for you to participate in the show.
Yes, sir.
Anthony, what do you think about how you did on your picks this week?
Frustrating when that
It does. I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of this bull. Been 7 years of the same tired of it.
Oh, okay.
One more time so I can reenact this.
All right, ready? It's
frustrating when that
It does. I'm fucking tired of it. I'm tired of this bull. Been 7 years of the same tired of it.
It's time to go around the NFL. Man, you made some choices, sir.
Don't tell me about it, Craig.
Well, we both are 0-1. Well, I mean, I would say we're not actually 0-1. You're 0-2. I'm 1-1 based off the Commanders game because I got Thursday Night Football correct.
Yeah, you did.
So I got that going for me, which is nice. We both missed on the Raiders and Bears. How about Tyler Badgett? Is that how I say his name? I should know how to say his name by now. He's got an NFL victory. But does a good job, gets in there, throws for 162 and a score. Deontay Foreman goes nuts, and the Raiders stink. They're very Commanders-esque. They're somehow 3-4, but they're worse than that. The Bears now 2-5 after dropping a 30-burger, 30-12, the final score in Chicago.
Yeah, Deontay Foreman went off. Again, they're, injuries ravished as well, and he's one of the only healthy backs that they have, but he had himself a day, and it sort of gives me, a reminder of how he was when he was with the Panthers, where he was just going crazy, and he signs a one-year deal with the Bears, and it turns
16 for 180 or for 89, 5-6 a carry.
Turns out
2 scores.
They needed him.
I admittedly didn't watch this game, so I don't have a lot of analysis on it, but what happened at the quarterback split? Why did Hoyer and O'Connell play?
That I don't know.
All I know is Hoyer went 17 of 32. O'Connell comes in and goes 10 of 13 with a touchdown.
He should have been playing. And I told you on Friday,
Yeah,
I'd
it
rather
doesn't make
see
any
O'Connell
sense.
than Hoyer.
Stupid. Speaking of stupid, what a game in Indianapolis. 39-38 is ultimately the final score. Jonathan Taylor back on the board with a touchdown. Gardner Minshew throws for over 300. And the Colts, who no one would look at and be like, oh, yeah, that's the great offense, even if they're starting to figure a few things out here and there, put up 38 against the best defense in the league in Cleveland, and they still lose. Not because Deshaun Watson plays great. Nope, he goes out again because he's an unreliable human, and his shoulder is not very good. Lo and behold, P.J. Walker comes back in, and they score 39, largely thanks, obviously, to their run game. Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt both find the end zone. Hunt's got 2, including the game winner with about 15 seconds left. But Walker does enough, like not anything spectacular, but 15 of 32, 178, got them in position to score. And ultimately today, the talk in Cleveland, despite the fact that they won, is I got people in Cleveland texting me going, hey, can we trade for Jacoby Brissett?
What?
That's seriously, I got that text earlier today. That is like
crazy.
that's like a topic on Cleveland Sports Talk Radio is like, what would you give up to the Commanders for Jacoby Brissett?
It's a great question. And to be honest, I mean, I haven't weighed in too much. We'll probably get into it either later today or tomorrow. But Craig, do you think the Commanders should be sellers at the trade deadline? Not just sellers, aggressive.
Should? Yes. Will they? No.
No, exactly.
But I do want to get into it. I don't know whether we'll do that. Maybe 6:15, 6:30.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. But yeah, you give me a 4th or a 3rd for Brissett, easy. Honestly, you'd probably take a 5th. I mean, he's on a 1-year deal, so whatever you can get. The problem is how can you trust that Sam Howell is going to survive the rest of the season?
Yep, that too.
Because he's taken a zillion hits. So we both missed that one. So that's
Also,
-1,
we gotta
-2.
So where we are right now, Craig?
Mm-hmm.
Where you're at 1-3.
Yep.
I'm at 0-4.
And then we get to Bills Patriots.
And counting.
Bills Patriots. Guess who won this game if you didn't see?
Oh,
nope,
my goodness.
it's not the good team. It's the bad team. The Patriots won at home 29-25 on a last-second touchdown from Mac Jones to Mike Gesicki, who then did the 2 worst Gritties in the history of the dance. Really, honestly, they should have lost the game because the Gritties were so bad, but that's not how football works. Josh Allen just cannot figure it out right now. I mean, look, they put up 25, which is not a terrible day at the office, but Allen, 265, like he's 27 of 41. The run game didn't really get anything going. Diggs only 58 yards on 12 targets, so yards per target, not very good there. But I mean, the big thing is this defense for Buffalo, like that to me is where their issues are. They are screwed without Milano and some of the other guys that they lost. And I just, like, we had them in puncher's chance this week, and I'm not ready because of Josh Allen to take them out of puncher's chance when we do our tiers on Thursday. But they're not a serious contender. Defensively, they are that banged up and wounded.
Yeah, you just talked about, them being without Matt Milano. It has shown the last couple of weeks the defense isn't the same. They're not generating the same amount of pressure, turnovers.
They lost Daquan Jones. Ed Oliver was out this week. Milano's on IR. Tre'Davious White's on IR. Like, they're just not. I mean, Milano and White are their 2 best players on the 2nd and 3rd level.
And they've missed some time the last couple of seasons, especially White.
Yeah.
Everybody thought he was going to.
He finally looked like himself again, and he got hurt again.
Mm-hmm.
That London game was just absolutely brutal for them. So, all right, so that's 0-4? 0-5 for Anthony?
Yeah, I'm 0-5.
1-4 for me. Not great. I think I'm about to turn it around in
You
part.
think so?
Did I pick the Bucks or did I pick the Falcons?
You picked the Bucks.
Son of a gun. Who did you pick?
The Bucks.
Damn it.
I'm 0-6.
Poopah. The Falcons won. That's nifty.
The thing, they should have blown the Bucks out. Did you see all the red zone turnovers that they had?
And they didn't convert anything into touchdowns.
No.
Because Younghoe Koo is my fantasy kicker. And, I didn't tease Phillips. I beat him in fantasy. Damn it. What a missed opportunity. Younghoe Koo, 3 for 3, including a 51-yarder. This was a weird game in a million different ways. Bijan Robinson has 1 carry for 3 yards, and he had some kind of like headache or something, but he wasn't on the injury report.
Nope.
Just all of a sudden during the game, maybe right before he gets it. Like, those things can happen. Like, we've all woken up not feeling well. But super duper bizarre. Ultimately, the Falcons able to pull it out without Bijan. Baker, 275, a touchdown, a pick. Bucks run game, whole bunch of nothing. Rachaad White, only 34 yards on the ground. And, also turnovers. Devin Tompkins, fumble. That it gets lost. You have the pick from Baker. Ritter lost 3 fumbles, and the Falcons still won the game.
Yeah, Craig.
Wild.
He had 2 on the goal line. He thought he was running in one time. Not Whitehead. What is his name?
Devin White?
Number 31, the safety.
Oh,
Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
Comes in, hits it out. Then there's another one. He's on the goal line, loses the ball. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? He was point shaving out there, Craig. I'm convinced.
It's not good. I would consider going to Heineke if I was Atlanta. And I can't believe I'm saying that because people that listen to the show know I'm not exactly a Heineke guy. But, like, the mistakes he makes are different than the ones that Ritter makes. And I think the ones for Atlanta, who just needs, like, a caretaker quarterback, like, keep Taylor in the box, let him do some of the crazy Heineke stuff, and they can win football games that way. All right, Lions and Ravens. This was supposed to be a good game. It was for the Ravens. Lamar was awesome. And Dan Campbell, after the game, said as much straight up. He's like, Lamar killed us. He threw the heck out of the ball. Lamar was awesome. There's the 1 touchdown that it's literally a 10-second play. Gets the easy rollout to Andrews. 357, 3 touchdowns. Those are just 2 of them for Lamar. Added a 3rd as well. And I don't know what happened. I mean, the Lions offense, man, like Monroe St. Brown's got 13 catches for 102, but they cannot turn anything into points. Shut out through 3 quarters. They finally get on the board at the end to avoid the full-on embarrassment. Goff, 284 on 53 attempts. Interception, no touchdowns. QBR of 14-9 in the game. They just couldn't get the run game going either, which that's how they've won games this year. The game flow gets out of hand early. You're down 28-0 at halftime. You can't play your game, and that's kind of all she wrote.
Mr. Craig Hoffman, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are the Lions still prime contenders in your opinion?
I definitively think they belong in puncher's chance this week.
Okay, just making sure.
They could still revert. They could still find themselves, but this was a test, and they failed miserably.
Yeah, this was a shellacking. But this is also what happens when Lamar's receivers catch the ball. Just catch the ball. He's going to give you the opportunities, and then you seize those opportunities. So, shout out to the Ravens because they definitely put the beat down on them boys.
I mean, it's crazy. Detroit ran 72 plays and only got 337 yards. Baltimore ran 55 plays and had 503. They averaged 9-1 a play.
Yeah.
They averaged 12-8 a pass. That's nuts.
Hey, Lamar for MVP.
I hear
said
you.
this.
I mean, the thing is, Detroit still averaged 6 yards a carry on the ground, but when you're down 28-0, like, you just stop running the football.
Yeah.
Which is how they want to play. So, a good job by Baltimore. It shows you how much game flow can matter in a game. Did either of us pick the Ravens?
No.
Seriously?
No. I was leaning the Ravens.
So was I. Why did we do that?
I think you were going with the Lions because this was the test and you said they were going to pass.
What an idiot.
I chose the Lions because the Ravens were banged up a little bit in their secondary.
So that's 1-6 for me, 0-7 for you?
Yes, sir. I'm
Good.
still looking for my first win.
Don't find it here, but I did.
Yeah, you did.
Steelers 24, Rams 17. Why? Beats the hell out of me.
Oh, I know
but the
why.
Steelers did it.
Brett Maher, 3 missed field goals.
Not great, Bob.
And guess what, Craig? Even if he makes those field goals, they'd be up, I guess, 26-24. They cover. The Steelers would have covered. The what is it, -3?
Yeah, they were 3-point dogs.
Yeah, so you call it a stinky fish. And
yeah.
Indeed it was. The Rams just didn't, I don't know. They didn't look that good. But also, shout out to the Steelers, though. They made some plays. Kenny Pickett, he actually played all right. They got the run game going. The defense stepped up when they needed
George
to.
Pickens just like catches ridiculous footballs.
He is insane, man. He is insane. I mean, I wish Kenny Pickett was a little bit better because he should be deserving of more than, just 5 catches on the game.
I mean, he had 8 targets, 5 catches, 107. Puka Nacua went off 8 for 154, but Cooper Kupp, they held him in check, 2 for 29 on 7 targets. So it's not like the Rams didn't try, but damn. And then, who else? TJ Watt at the end with the pick. Like, why is he there?
That was insane.
What?
Though.
Matthew Stafford's probably asking the same question I just did. What are you doing there? Catching the football.
Yeah.
TJ Watt, truly remarkable football player. Him and Myles Garrett are just like, I don't know how one of them's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but I guess they could share it.
Yeah. I mean, Myles, the game he had, he single-handedly won those guys the game yesterday.
I mean, that was nuts. 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 6 tackles, a couple tackles for loss.
The blocked field goal.
Blocked field goal.
Did you see him hurdle?
It's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
He's a freak, man. As well as any defensive player. Like, he's on an all-time heater right now.
Yeah, and apparently he has the most sacks for a player going into his age 28 season, or before his 28th birthday, I would say.
And he's missed a bunch of time.
Yeah,
like, it's
he has.
insane. Cardinals, Seahawks, got this one right. Is that your first win?
Seahawks, yes, finally.
Seahawks.
Finally. Thank you, Seahawks. Thank you.
Joshua Dobbs made a couple plays, but not enough. Seahawks 20, Cardinals 10. Big day for Kenneth Walker III on the ground. Geno also with one of the prettiest passes that you'll see all day. Really, it's on the catching end. I mean, Geno threw a couple nice ones, but how about the touchdown from Jake Bobo?
Yeah,
that toe tap. That was nasty. Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie, also a nice day. 4 for 63 and a touchdown as well. How can I say, man? The Cardinals are just not a very talented football team. Clayton Tune comes in at mop-up duty at the end of this one, I believe, as well. He's 1 for 1. Maybe he got in the middle. Anyway, I didn't watch a lot of this game. Point is, the Cardinals are not very good, and they lost again. They're 1-6. Packers and Broncos. How about Denver pulling out a win? The Packers are officially in uh-oh territory. Good thing for them, they didn't pick up the 5th-year option on Jordan Love. They wanted to see what he was, and the answer is, another 180-yard day, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. Ball doesn't get moved very far down the field at all. Russell Wilson, not a spectacular day, but enough to win. Javonte Williams, 15 for 82. A.J. Dillon, 15 for 61. Aaron Jones, solid in his return, but limited action, 8 carries for 35 yards. Green Bay's in a weird spot, man, because Love's not terrible, but he's not good either.
Yeah, I don't know if you blame it on the offensive system that he's in, or I don't know where you point the blame, because Matt LaFleur is a solid coach.
He's a really good coach.
So I'm thinking it's Jordan Love, and it just, he's not that good. They another slow start, and towards the end of the game, they made a run for it, but it just you dig yourself a hole, and it's going to be hard to come back. But Russ, he did enough to get his guys the dub. Cortland Sutton, another great game by him. So
another good game by Broncos receiver, not named Jerry Jeudy. What?
Yeah. Yeah. Was that shade?
Either of us pick the Broncos, Anthony?
No.
Poop.
Yeah.
Chargers and Chiefs got this one right. Travis Kelce, just a monster day. 12 for 179 and a touchdown. Mahomes, a casual 424, 4 touchdowns and a pick. By the way, Patrick Mahomes is probably your MVP favorite at this point of the year. Again, because, we just take it for granted. But, what? He had 424 and a touchdown yesterday.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's one game. Tua, I think, still deserves to be up there. I don't know if I'm giving Mahomes the front running, because the offense has struggled before, this explosive game by him. This is easily his best game to date this season.
Okay, I'm going to blind resume you. Who's who? Both have played 7 games.
Yep.
One has 2,092 yards passing. The other 2,017. Those are the only 2 passers in the league over 2,000 yards. The higher, what's it called? Yardage guy also has a slightly higher completion percentage, 71.2% to 69.5. Both players have 15 touchdowns to 6 picks.
Yep.
Player B, if you will, has a higher QBR and has taken less sacks. Player A, it's 76 to 69 in the QBR. Player A does have a higher QB rating, 110 to 101. Who's who?
Player A is Tua and player B is Mahomes.
That is correct. They are less than 100 yards apart in passing yards. They are identical touchdown interceptions. Tua is doing it against a soft schedule. And I love Tua. I'm a big Tua Tagovailoa fan.
Mahomes had the Broncos' terrible defense to line up against.
Tua has Tyreek.
Yeah.
Who is Mahomes throwing to besides Kelce?
You can't say besides Kelce. He's arguably
That's
fair. Come on.
I mean, I guess that is fair. But, one has got, a cheat code speed receiver and another one on the other side in Waddle and a bunch of running backs that are making plays, and the other guy's Patrick Mahomes. It's like the Mahomes and Kelce show. It's crazy what Mahomes is doing.
I don't know. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer Kelce and Mahomes, or would you prefer Tua and Tyreek?
Well, if I get Mahomes, then I want Mahomes and Kelce because that's because I get Mahomes.
Yeah. I guess that's not fair.
So it's they're
but we're still talking about the most dynamic player in football in Tyreek Hill. So you got to pick your poison.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, that's Mahomes is right there.
Yeah.
Dolphins now, though, 5-2 after they lose. I definitely did not have that. Eagles, probably their best game of the season, bouncing back after the loss to the Jets. Looking sick in their Kelly green jerseys. Anthony, I'm not even going to lie. I want one of those Eagles sweatshirts.
Yeah, they look sweet.
You can give me the crew neck with the eagle on it or the two-tone hoodie that Sirianni was wearing.
Yeah.
That is some objectively sweet gear.
Yes, sir.
And I realized that there are people that just drove themselves off the Beltway because a DC radio host said that he would happily take some Eagles gear. But it has nothing to do, if that was a fashion company's logo and not the logo of a football team, and you don't want one, I would like for you to know you have terrible taste in fashion.
Oh, no, you can admit jerseys are cool. I think you can do that. The Eagles, they had some nice unis.
That is sweet. So there's that. Did you pick the Eagles, though, didn't you?
Nope.
Oh.
I picked the Dolphins.
Oh. It's 5 straight games for A.J. Brown over 125 yards.
He is nasty. I'm confused, though. What happened to Devontae Smith? What did he have? 5 catches yesterday?
I mean, but he had a couple big ones. That's the thing is he makes some important plays even if he's not going crazy. I mean, he had 4 for 49. And when your number one guy is 10 for 137, your tight end has 5 for 77, like, that's fine.
But it's just been week in, week out. A.J. Brown, dominant. Also, Julio Jones, he had an appearance in the game. He got himself a catch.
He did.
They
run it 34 times in the game. Like, there's only so many footballs to go around.
And while we're talking about the Eagles, should we bring up the fact that they just got richer by signing safety Kevin Byard?
Yeah, they trade Byard for Terrell Edmonds and some draft picks. Like, that's nuts, man. That's like unfair.
It is insane.
Byard's one of the best 5 safeties in the league.
Yeah, he is. Like, it's not fair.
The Eagles are not messing around.
It's not fair, but they realize that their window to win is now.
Yeah, they do. And they have done a great job of maximizing it. And here's the thing. Because they have so many good young players, like, obviously it's a different calculus now because Jalen's contract hits the books and you're like, oh, that's expensive.
Yeah.
But, like, Jalen Carter's cheap for the next 4 years.
Yep.
Like,
Jordan
Davis, yeah, like all these guys,
Nolan
and
Smith.
they got to figure out their corner depth situation because they probably can't afford to keep like Slay and Bradbury around for much longer. But they figured it out this year. Like, they got both guys cheaper, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, from the offseason. They definitely got Slay cheaper, where they cut him and they brought him back on like a minimum. Yeah. So yeah, man, like, and that's the thing is teams are gonna. It seems like a really fun team. It's a great organization. They have a quarterback that people want to play with. Like, they're going to get guys on the cheap that want to win titles. And they'll figure out the finances. And Howie Roseman has done a great job of that. And I also think the thing that makes Philly really special is the same thing that makes Kansas City really special. They know who they are, and they know what kind of guys they want, and they know what kind of personalities work in the room. And they will do their homework, and they will find the right guys. They have a lot of star power on that team, but they all get along, and there's good cohesion. Not just because they win, but it's part of the reason why they win. And, I think to McDaniel's credit, he's done a pretty good job of that down in Miami. Like, that seems to be a pretty cohesive football team that is still learning how to win big games against big opponents. But, like, they're building it the right way. There's a certain something. The 49ers have this. The Chiefs have this. The Eagles have this about good football teams where everyone just seems like a good fit. And I would say most of the rest of the league just tries to accumulate talent, and it's not as cohesive and thus doesn't work, both schematically and personality-wise. And that's part of why most teams in the NFL are average, on top of the whole quarterback thing. The guys they have in those places I just mentioned are either pretty good or set up to succeed in Brock Purdy's case. And Brock is also kind of a mix of both. Like, the fact that Shanahan picked Purdy is not an accident. That's a conversation for a different day. That was a bit of a sidebar. But now we're done. Anthony, how bad was it?
We were really bad. I went 2-10.
Oh my God.
You went 4-8.
That's not good.
No. And our records.
I was so proud of myself for getting the Steelers one too. I would have sacrificed that for, any of the other games.
This is ridiculous. I don't understand the NFL, Craig.
Put that in a promo.
I really don't. I don't know what to do. I don't.
Should you just pick against what you think this week and see what happens?
The thing is, I did that last week. I didn't really want to pick the Lions, but I was like, Craig is picking the Lions. I'm just going,
You picked a bad week to follow your boy. I led you into darkness. That's
yeah,
my
you
bad,
did,
bro.
but it's all good because next week, I'm righting my wrongs. I'm going to get them right.
Okay. That's the goal. We'll see what happens Friday at 5:30 when we make our picks for the upcoming week. When we get back here on the Hoffman Show, I think we did a better job with our pick 6 at 6. We identified the correct players in terms of impact in the game. Just not all of them played well. Our pick 6 at 6 next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We are live here on the Team 980 on the free Odyssey app and on YouTube at the Team 980. It is time for our Pick 6. On Fridays, we pick 6 players that we think will have an outsized impact on the Commanders winning or losing, and we evaluate how those players did on a Monday. It's now Monday. It is time to evaluate.
The 6 biggest Commander storylines.
It is time!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
I'm going to be their biggest and harshest critic, but I'm also their #1 fan.
Well, Ant, first of all, did you listen to pregame at all on Sunday?
I did not.
Man, when we did our Pick 6, so we also take this list and we run it by Logan on the Take Command pregame show. Logan was not a big fan of your picks.
None of them?
He's clowning you for every single one of them.
God dang.
Rough. You hate to see it.
All right, here we go.
But honestly, I don't think you did too bad. Cody Barton. So Cody gets hurt in the game. And, oh, hold on. Sorry, big voice guy. Got to make sure that you're big.
Number 1.
That mattered a lot because when he went out, things got a little sideways. You certainly had some coverage issues from David Mayo. Jamin probably picked up some of those responsibilities, and he did not have a particularly great day in coverage.
Khalid, too.
Khalid had a couple, snaps where you're like, there's some more to be desired there. Cody's starting to play well finally, and now he's got an MRI today. We should know more on Wednesday. But ultimately, linebacker play was pretty crappy in some pretty big spots, and that was how the Giants scored their 2 touchdowns. So, yeah, I would say you were on that one.
Yeah, I think we had all been clamoring for, Jamin Davis to, play a little bit more than Cody Barton, just because he was consistently week in, week out, one of the highest graded players per PFF anyway. And I guess when he got a little bit more responsibilities added to his play, more playing time as well, things kind of, hit the fence a little bit.
Yeah, he got in some bad coverage situations
and
just didn't do what he needed to do. He was awesome against the run. He's their second highest graded player against the run per PFF. Like, he was really good there. He played all but 1 snap in the game, and just the 2 key plays. It's also a rough gig, man. You give up 14 as a defense and you lose the game. That's not how that's supposed to go.
It's also, the 2 best players on the Giants, and Saquon and Darren Waller, and he was tasked with, defending both, and that's a tough ask,
That's a tough gig, man.
Yeah, Darren Waller himself, he has wide receiver speed, and then Saquon is just an all insane, talent. So.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tough day in the office for good old Jamin.
It was not good. And then David Mayo has a 33.1 pass rush grade. Pass coverage grade.
Yeah.
Not great, Bob. Speaking of not great, Bob.
Number 2.
I selected Nick Gates, and Nick Gates had a bit of a terrible, no good, very bad day. I mean, he plays a role in setting the alignments. That was really bad. They were all over the place in terms of getting things aligned, things assigned. Once you have them aligned and assigned, like he and Sadiq Charles were pretty poor passing off stunts. He lost one-on-one to Leonard Williams multiple times, including some of the sacks. Some of them were pretty quick. His pass block grade on PFF was a 26.
Say that again?
Really hard to get a 26. There's got to be a miscalculation. Apparently, Cole Turner had a 0.7 his pass block. I don't know what that's all about. But there's got a lot more pass block snaps. You got 50 pass block snaps, and he gets a 26.1.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I mean, but
terrible.
You highlighted, his matchup against Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, and there were a couple of times where they rushed 5, and he was head up with Dexter Lawrence, and
because he got his butt kicked.
I
said Williams, didn't I? I meant Lawrence.
Yeah, you got to feel sorry for him because Dexter is a.
Yeah, I mean it's a tough gig, but like that's what you're paid to do, man.
Good gracious,
you can't lose. Like there's one thing about losing, and there's another thing losing quickly. And I got a lot of like Twitter doofuses sending me. Apparently Sam had like 2.2 seconds to throw on average in this game, which is obviously not bad. And some of those are because you lose quickly. Like that's not This is the first game where I think you look at the O-line and you're like, you guys were not very good. And some of that was losing with the pen.
Yep.
And some of that is losing just physically getting your butt kicked.
Yep.
And Nick Gates had some of both. And by the way, they weren't good running the football. Like, I guess Gates actually had the best pass run block grade on the team according to PFF, but man, they were not good, man. It was real bad. And Gates had a pretty big part of it. Also, can he stop being the enforcer on everything? Like when Terry picks up the late hit, they threw the flag, go back to the huddle. Don't go yell at Xavier McKinney. I know you want to stand up for your guy, and there's probably some of you that are like, oh, I love that. You know what you wouldn't love? He picked up a 15-yard penalty. They threw the flag. It's fine. You don't have to be the tough guy every time. Sometimes being the tough guy is like, you do it again, we're going to have problems. Mm-hmm. But that's why you got the flag. Anyway.
Number 3.
Speaking of Terry, Logan was clowning you for this pick. I think it was spot on. Because you want to know who the best player on the offense was yesterday? It was Terry McLaurin. Yep. And you want to know who needed the ball more? It was Terry McLaurin. And you want to know when this offense finally started getting going?
The second half, when Terry finally got the ball.
He had 1 target in the first half.
It's ridiculous.
Like it truly is. I mean, you should throw 2 screens to Terry a half. Or like a screen and a jet pass. Like, you've got to manufacture touches for him. And especially when you're in man coverage, like, there are man beaters that you can kind of design to get a guy a touch, even if it's not going to be an explosive touch. But there's also times where you're like, this is man coverage. I'm just going to throw the ball down the field to Terry. And they did that a couple times, and it was good. He had the one on the sideline that I don't know whether you want to call it a drop, but like it was a contested catch that he normally probably comes up with, but McKinney did just enough to not get penalized, but also get there with enough contact to break it up.
Yep.
I guess his timing was good enough. I thought he was there a little early, but like there's hand fighting. That happens. Terry should catch that ball. And Terry would tell you that he should catch that ball. It's a tough catch. But they got to find ways to get him the ball. You pay the man $70 million because he's great. So get him the freaking ball and let him be great. That's my Terry story.
Yep.
Number 4.
So Logan Thomas was number 4. And Logan had a couple of nice catches in the game. He is actually really good when he gets the ball in his hands. Like, if they can get him the ball in space and let him run, he rumbles, but he'll rumble through people. But as a pass blocker, yikes, man. Like, he has a 72 pass block grade on PFF. That's a bad job by PFF of grading him out. He had a couple of these sacks that are on him. and he blocks the run. Like, sometimes you get credit for a good pass block, and it's like, no. He's blocking the wrong guy. And the guy that's the free runner to the quarterback, that was his guy. And that happened at least once yesterday. So Logan, and also, like, he has the drop. And I know it's a tough ball, but, like, there's a third down situation where Sam kind of throws it up to where Logan can get it and the DB's able to get his hands in. You'd like to see Logan come down with that. Overall, though, I think a solid game. He was really important, and because he was just solid and not very good, they score 7 points. Like, that's part of the equation yesterday.
Yeah, I think also the play you just highlighted where, Sam gives him a chance. I think, Terry, Logan, you got to be able to help out your young quarterback. Even Jahan at the end of the game, yes, is a bad throw. Sort of
the one on Jahan's, like, that's brutal.
It's tough, but you got to be able to help out this young quarterback. Also, on that play, he evaded a whole sack. Like, I don't know. I think some of these plays, you got to help Sam out. And Logan, I think that was a drop. The one on the sideline with Terry. McKinney, he didn't really even touch the ball. Like, it hits Terry, like, right on the shoulder, but
his hands are in there. He's kind of holding his arms.
Yeah.
There's contact there.
Yeah.
Like, legal contact, I think, but contact.
Yeah.
I think that was 44. 29 had the play on Logan Thomas on the sideline. He gets his hands on the ball.
Yeah.
But Logan, like, can you use your body box out? It's tough ask. I'm fully admitting that, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey man, can you go be a football player and make a play for us?
Number 5.
Casey Tuhill, who played a whopping 10 snaps. Chase played 61 of 68 snaps. Again, he's the best player on the field. He grades out at a 90. Of anybody that played more than 5 snaps, he got a 90. 87 pass rush grade. He's got 4 pressures, 2 sacks, 2 hurries. Again, he's only got 1 tackle. Don't love that. Would love to see more productivity. But yeah, man, I don't know why Casey Tuhill doesn't play more. But also it's 10 of 61 or 68. So it just is one of those games where there's only so many snaps to go around, and he doesn't wind up on the field. But he did fine when he was in there, but like no major impact.
It's probably also because in the first half, I think the defense was more so on the field as opposed to like this, I guess, the second half where 3 and outs, they were getting some stops. So maybe that's probably why they limited it a little bit.
Maybe. And then I'll tell you, speaking of the rotation.
Number 6.
Our last guy was Quan Martin. I thought this would be a bigger Quan Martin game. He makes this great play on the opening series. 40-inch vertical on full display, knocking down that pass from Tyrod Taylor. He only plays 5 snaps in the game. It was really weird because they also played Emmanuel Forbes 5 snaps. I don't think they were the same 5 snaps, but like, I don't know what package Forbes was on the field for. I don't really even remember seeing him. I mean, I know he was out there because they mentioned it at one point.
He was out there on third downs a couple of times.
Yeah, and then Quan, like, I don't know what his usage package was. They ultimately played Kalik a lot more, and maybe they didn't want Quan out there without Barton. And maybe that's part of it is like, hey, we don't want this young guy out there without our signal caller. But Mayo can direct things. I don't know, man. It was a weird day defensively. Nobody particularly played terrible. Like, Jamin has 2 really bad plays, and St. Juice had a mixed bag of a day where he gives up some big ones, but he also makes a couple of big ones. Jamin too. Jamin's got some really nice plays where he like tracks Barkley down, and you're like, damn, that dude's fast. It's a frustrating day, man. Bad day at the office. Bad day at the office overall for the Commanders. All right, I think we picked some pretty important guys. Maybe the last 2 we didn't exactly nail. We'll try to get on Friday as we preview the Eagles, of course. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. When we get back, John Allen, we dive a little bit deeper into his quotes and kind of the mental state of this team, including if there's a fire and ice element and Allen's the fire. Won't surprise you that Ron Rivera was iced today. We'll let you hear from both next. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. And always live as well on the free Odyssey app. They get real Icarus-y, to go back to your Greek mythology days. You remember the story of Icarus, Anthony?
Not quite, Frank.
What do they teach you at Georgetown Prep? Icarus, the guy who flies too close to the sun.
Nope.
What do they teach you at Georgetown? Anthony, I think you just put your job at risk at Georgetown Prep.
Why?
There's no way that they did not teach you the story of Icarus at Georgetown Prep.
We actually did a lot of Greek mythology, but we didn't talk about Icarus flying too close to the sun.
Yes, you did. You don't remember it. I feel very, very confident. Who can we call
It's okay.
at Prep
I'm
to
gonna ask
confirm
my
this?
kids I mean, I will just do that right now, actually.
Okay. I would like you to ask someone of authority. Do we teach about Icarus?
2 hours later.
Did we ever check in on that, Anthony?
Yeah, my classmates actually texted me and said, "Yeah, we've done it."
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to figure out where you were on that day of class at a later date.
You're right.
Last night, Arina Sabalenka makes the U.S. Open final, the Belarusian player, and here's how it sounded on Belarusian television.
Арина Сабаленко! Ваму! Что Арина недостойна звания первой ракетки мира.
Yeah.
Получите! Распишитесь!
Oh, yeah.
Rising up, back on the street. Did my time, took my chances. When the distance, now I'm back on my feet. Just a man and his will to survive. So many times it happens too fast.
Oh, he's
You
going.
change your passion for glory. It's the eye of the tiger. It's the thrill of the night. Rising up to the challenge of a rival. And they lost, no survival. Все, ребята, я сдулся.
10 out of 10. No notes. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, should the Commanders be sellers at the trade deadline? Is it time to make that proclamation? We will get to that at 6:30. Also, don't forget, tomorrow, 4 o'clock hour, you do not want to miss it. It's our Vibe Check Tuesday, and I don't think the vibes are going to be immaculate, Anthony. I do not think that the vibes are going to be good. I don't think the vibes will be positive. I think the vibes are going to be really, really bad.
I agree. Apparently, Matt Essick, he did a over-under for how many calls the Rooster would get today, and he set it at 45.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many calls they got?
Is this like people called in more because they're angry, or?
Yeah.
Oh, 70.
Nah, not that many. I don't know if you can get to 70 in a 3-hour window.
That's
That would
true.
be crazy.
That would be over 20 calls an hour.
Yeah.
60. That'd be 20 calls an hour on the dot.
They got to 44. I think Rooster probably had to do his rant first, get everything off his chest, and then allow the callers to weigh in.
Everyone who bet the over is just out there like, which is kind of what John Allen said yesterday after the game.
Frustrating when that
does. I'm fucking tired of this bullshit. It's been 7 years of the same shit. Tired of
That with JP Finley in the locker room last night. Allen also on the Sports Junkies today, as he is each and every Monday here on the Team 980, and expanded on why he was so bleeping bleeped of this bleeping bleep.
John, when you were saying you're effing tired of it, of this S, and what were you talking about something in particular, or just another bad start to another, kind of average to below average season?
I
would say the inconsistency. I think the thing that's so frustrating about this team is 1 week we'll have a week where we look really good, and the next week we just come out flat. And it's just the ups and downs, and good teams do not do that. You cannot win football games in this league by playing inconsistently. You know, some games offense shows up and defense does it. Other games defense shows up and offense does it. And we have the players do, we have the coaching to do it, but we just have to go out there and put it all together. And that's the frustrating part. It would be different if we didn't have enough talent, if we just weren't a good football team. That would be different. But we are, and we're just not executing. And that's what's frustrating.
So I think that's an interesting comment from Alan, because I do agree with a lot of what he said. I don't necessarily agree, and I don't expect him to say otherwise, that the coaching is there. I don't think this is a particularly well-coached football team. I do not think that they have optimized game plans, even if some weeks they're fine. But, like, it's not the best. The talent on this team is really good in some places, and part of the lack of optimization of the coaching staff in terms of game plan is they don't utilize that talent to its maximal effect. They don't get Terry McLaurin the football. They don't make it so this D-line can be thoroughly dominant. They play this bend but don't break defense. And then, they claim to want to do one thing, be this turnover forcing type of team. And then schematically and play calling wise, that's not how they operate, but they drafted that way. Or, you draft a running based personnel because you want to be a run first team, and then you go hire Eric Bieniemy. And again, like, Bieniemy's a good OC. It made sense. He was the most logical hire in a lot of ways, but you built your team one way and then you operated another. That doesn't make any sense. And that's part of the reason why they're inconsistent. I also think something that they are extremely guilty of, and that we as fans and consumers and media folks probably are also guilty of to a lesser extent, is proximity bias. And the result of the proximity bias, fancy term for, like, you like and you favor things that are closer to you, right? We see these players, so we're familiar with them, and thus, like, we think Percy Butler's this really good thing when it's really just like we know his name. And there's another young safety that's better that we just have never heard of, so we would say that Percy Butler, I don't mean to pick on Percy Butler, Percy's been okay. But that kind of thing. Like, there is a proximity bias about their own players where they look at what these players are capable of, the upside, and think that's who they're going to be every week. And it's not. They're not consistent. They don't have that, and they don't drive it home with how they practice. They don't drive it home with how they are in meetings. They don't drive it home. And the reason I say that is not because I have any inside knowledge of what they do in meetings or what they do in practice. That's all behind closed doors. I just see the results. And the results, it's one thing to talk about results versus process in short bursts in 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 game samples. If this was just this year, I think it'd be one thing, but this isn't. Like, this is 4 years of Rivera. This is who they are. And it's not any different, by the way, than what it was under Jay. And, like, again, that's not a compliment to Jay. It's just like, what has really changed? I've covered this team since 2015. It's the same freaking team. And that's John's point, is that they are the same exact group that offense shows up sometimes, defense shows up others, that they just can't seem to put together a full game. And I realize it's actually more common in the NFL if you watch the whole league every weekend than maybe people that are in one place realize. But it's also not good enough, and they've never had a season where they escape that cycle. Ron was asked today on his Zoom press conference about John's comments. This is what he said.
Yeah, there was one player that made a comment that I'm aware of, and he's disappointed, as is everybody else, and I can't dispute it just because he's a very passionate football player that wants to win. I get it. We all want to win. We're all passionate about this game. We want to win, and that's the bottom line. And frustration sometimes gets the best of us, and we've got to be able to handle that as well. Trust me, I get frustrated when I get up in front of you guys and I listen to some of the questions, and I want to be able to say some of the things that I really wish I could, but I can't. And that's what Jonathan felt. So, I can understand that and I can appreciate that. So, got nothing but respect for how hard the young man plays and what the young man is trying to do, and that's win football games.
But the problem with Rivera is, like, I don't know that he has the answers. Because if he did, why would we still be here? Like, the frustration is that we're in the same place that he was. Like, John's in the same place that he was when Ron took over. He's on a really talented group that can't seem to be quite as dominant as they think they should. He's got similar problems at the layer behind at the linebacker level. The DBs are, like, fine. And the offense is still in search of a quarterback. And Terry McLaurin is still by far the best player. Like, if you're John, are you just crying out for help? Like, get me the hell out of here?
When you walk up to the dude in the locker room, and he got
like,
a do-rag with
question.
sunglasses
Like,
and
of course, if you ask John on Wednesday, hey, man, you want to get traded? He's not going to be like, yes. He's going to be, no, I want to figure it out. Like, and especially for John, right? He's went to Stonebridge. Like, he's
this man looked like
house,
show
he's got
enough.
Family. He's got, like,
when this started.
John Allen doesn't want to get traded. John Allen doesn't want to
he can't hear your question because he got on air.
But I think there's probably something, like, as an NFL player, sometimes you have to lie to yourself and say that the answers are like, we have all we need in this room. Because otherwise you can't motivate yourself to go to work every day. You have to lie to yourself.
I don't give
you have to, have other motivations. Logan's talked about how at times like some of the teams that fought the hardest were some of the worst that he was on because like they knew they weren't good, but they also knew that they were fighting for their next contract and what they put on tape.
Do I look like a man that is concerned with the rules?
That is the reality of where a lot of players on this team could be in a couple of weeks.
Allen ain't got no ways.
Really good, and they seem to be getting better. And they just traded for Kevin Byard.
Someone say something.
The schedule after that's not any easier.
All right. Well, that was
New England finally looks. New England just beat Buffalo.
Made this man lose
that was
all
supposed to
his
be the easy game.
He's like the most professional dude in the league.
The man's
good teams.
He looked like Stephen A's guy.
This thing could turn from 3-4 to 3-7 really fast. So, and by the way, Belichick, if you want, Patriots won one game. Belichick destroys young quarterbacks. If you thought the Giants blitzes were bad, wait till you see what Belichick cooks up against Howell. Good God, that is terrifying to think about. So, end of the day, I get the frustration from Allen. I think he probably captured what so many of you were feeling, certainly what I feel, as well as you possibly can. I'm just regulated by the FCC, and so I can't say it like he can. But many of you do tell me that on Twitter. So there's that. By the way, also in the YouTube comments, many of the same thoughts. You can leave those at Craig Hoffman, at the Team 980, and we will read them on Wednesday in our Never Read the Comments section, which, Anthony, I'm sure this week will be an absolute delight.
Man, you better get ready.
I'm going to have to put on a hazmat suit before I dive into those comments, prepare that segment. When we get back, should the Commanders think about being sellers at the deadline?
Tried to warn you, bro. It is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night. Wow. It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the Bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get it shut down, you're probably the one getting thrown out. It is what it is right now. It's weird, but Nashville, baby. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I will add one more small part to this story, and this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got quality Yates reaction. Part two, as we leave the hotel the next morning to go to breakfast. Remember, the wall's very thin. So it's not going where you think it's going. But as we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice, you know, it's been proven that the later groups stay out and make noise and all this stuff at their bachelorette weekend, the higher the divorce rate.
Oh God!
In the wedding,
so
and also the better
trash,
chances,
basically.
and also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. Okie dokie. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of tolerance for the Woo Girls. They say on the internet, like, feel free to post stuff, like your friends' photos, do whatever. But like whatever you do for your own well-being, don't read the comments. Comment section, bad idea. What do we do?
We read those comments, baby.
That is exactly what we do. That was a little bit better. I still feel like that one was a little muted. I think sometimes it feels like you build yourself up a little too much, and then sometimes you don't
I ain't
quite
want to
go
go
for it.
screaming all the way. The thing is, though, my mic is a little lower than yours, so maybe I could have actually, did what I really.
Mike also moves. You can go, ooh.
Did you know you could play tricks with the mic?
It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Anthony, sometimes these wires down here, I go to roll my chair in. I just get stuck. I'm like, Just got to be able to roll around with freedom.
You need to untangle them then.
They're not even tangled. There's just like a mess of them.
Oh. Can you not put... Oh, you can't put them up on your desk either, huh?
It's like, we got a whole... I can't see if I can hide. Clean out the feed area. Oh. Speaking of clean out, should the Commanders be sellers at the trade deadline? Boom! Look at that transition, baby.
That was smooth, baby.
Should they be sellers at the deadline? Had you asked me this question a week ago, Anthony Haney, I would have said no. You ask me this question today, and my answer is
yes.
Oui.
But if they win next week, should they be sellers or traders? I mean buyers. I'm tripping.
If they win next week, that gets super complicated because you're then 500 and you just beat the Eagles. Maybe you figured some things out. I think it depends on how you win. But realistically, man, this is all hype. Like, the bigger problem here, let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room up front. This team is currently being run by the people that will not be running it next year. And anybody that makes a trade now, you have to trust that they're going to get the right compensation and they're going to do the right thing by the franchise. And, they also are not going to do that because they want to try to win games. And if a player is a prime trade candidate, it's because he brings value to a football team, which means you're getting worse by trading him. You're just making a bet that it's worth it for you to get that compensation to help you in the future. Well, if you're Ron Rivera, you're Martin Mayhew, why do you care about the future? But let's assume that they lose to Philadelphia next week, which now I've obviously guaranteed to win. And someone calls you for 2/3 for Chase Young. Do it in a heartbeat. And I definitively did not feel that way about Chase Young as recently as Saturday. But the reality is, man, Chase Young has been probably their best defensive player the last 3 weeks. And keeping him is going to be really expensive. And if you think Chase Young is going to settle for anything but the high-end pass rusher contract, especially if he continues to get better, you haven't been paying attention to the way Chase Young does business. And I would simply just say, I'm not interested in keeping him long-term. I think it's better and this is a tough thing to say because if I'm the next guy coming in to run this front office and the next coach, I want to make that decision for myself. The reality is that next coach and that next GM are currently working for another team. But I probably also want the draft capital and I probably want some of the financial flexibility because they've invested so much in this D line that there are weaknesses elsewhere on the roster. And this is like part of the roster being fundamentally flawed. So you tell me I get 2/3 for Chase Young, done. Montez is a little bit harder. He's not going to be quite as expensive. And he's been more consistent as a contributor to the team. And he plays better with these other guys. I would consider keeping Montez, but you give me the right draft capital, I would trade Montez. I think one of the challenging ones is Jacoby Brissett. Like, there is real buzz in Cleveland right now that Cleveland wants Brissett back. Can you afford to trade Brissett if Howell is getting this banged up? And the next guy up is Fromm. Like, are you willing to go the rest of the season with Jake Fromm and Sam Howell as your 2 quarterbacks? I mean, the thing is, if you are truly punting on the season, I don't care. What's the difference? Like, is it bad for this year? Yeah, but like, it's going to be bad for this year, so just do it. Jacoby Brissett's a free agent after the year. It's a 1-year deal. If Cleveland wants him and they're willing to give up something like a 4th or, God forbid, a 3rd for him because they're in a bad spot with Deshaun and they think that he can come in as someone who ran their system last year and save their season on a year where they could win the Super Bowl if they can just get there, yeah, like, sign me up. So, like, this is the problem. Are there guys that you don't really want to part ways with because you want them to be a part of your future? Like, yeah, of course. But the people making those decisions aren't going to be part of the future. So this is all very hypothetical, and I don't think that they're going to trade anybody. And that it's a really tough call for Josh Harris, too, because, you know, then I can already hear the people saying, well, then fire Mayhew, hire a new GM. Who are you hiring? You need someone to be available. And the problem is the person you want running your football operation is probably the either assistant GM or GM of another team right now. Or let's even, for familiarity's sake, let's say you want to hire Kyle Smith as your GM, right? An old familiar name who is the VP of player personnel in Atlanta, right? Would Kyle take that job? Probably. It's a GM job. It's the job that he's wanted forever. And it's the job he should have gotten when Mayhew got it. But I never have said anything differently. But is Kyle going to leave Atlanta right now for that job? No. You can't hire Kyle Smith in the middle of the season. He's committed to the Falcons for the rest of the year. In the offseason, absolutely. You can get that guy. You can get the assistant GM in Kansas City. You can get the assistant GM in San Francisco or wherever it is that you want to go. You can, by the way, dangle personnel power. I know this is going to make fans cringe, but like, you can dangle personnel power for a coach. If you want to give Ben Johnson of the Lions their offensive coordinator, I know that's a harder sell after what had just happened to him this past weekend, but if you want to give him personnel power to try to lure him here, you could theoretically do that. Or you could say, hey, man, like, do you have someone you worked with in Detroit or somewhere else that you really like that you want to bring with you as your GM, and you can have that. So it's just a bad situation right now. And as I've said all along, the Commanders have off-season problems. They did bad things in this last offseason, and they can't fix most of them until this next upcoming offseason, which makes the next 10 weeks of radio really fun, Anthony. Really super-duper fun.
A ton of fun.
The most fun. You know what? We have fun, though. We just do random stuff. So keep on listening. A quick look at what's trending. Then when we get back, it is time for Real Things Real People Said into Real Microphones. Hoffman Show. We are on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And Anthony, time to bust out the fine board for your boy. I just gave Grant Paulsen a heart attack. Where's the marker? There it is. Fell off. There is no Caps game tonight. I looked up on the TV screen. I saw a Caps game, and it clearly says Encore in the corner. I'm an idiot.
Crying.
I am an absolute moron. I'm going to say that's a 10-point penalty for me. So that gives me 50 on the fine points. That's a 5-0. We're at 50 to 40. So 10 more points, and we owe ourselves lunch. If those 10 points come from you, that is our second straight time splitting lunch 50-50, which is hilarious because it kind of defeats the point of us getting lunch. Because then we just buy our own lunches anyway.
Yep.
But we now have 90 fine points because I referenced a game that happened yesterday. Maybe we should go bet on this game, Anthony. You think someone will take our bets?
I'm not in the betting business, and also I'm not good at picking games.
That is 1,000% true.
So I don't think I'll fare in this that game.
Yeah, so that's on me. And everybody driving home thinking, oh, they got a Caps game. Wait, didn't they play Montreal last night? Sure did. Not tonight. They play in Toronto tomorrow. Oh, Canada. All right, what other housekeeping do we have, Anthony?
We have the Monday Night Football game. I'm not sure if you want to change your pick. We both have the 49ers right now.
That feels like a way to get a game back for us. I think I'm good on that.
You think so?
I think I'm going to stick with, even though Debo's out, even though Trent is doubtful, I'm going to stick with San Francisco.
McCaffrey's playing.
JJ's not, and that's good enough for me.
Ooh, you might be onto something.
So there's that. Tomorrow on the show, I think we're going to run it's Wizards opening week. They open Wednesday night in Indiana. One project that I have for homework tomorrow, I got to work on Dave Johnson's intro, so I'm pretty pumped about that. So we'll get that done for Wednesday when Dave joins us, as he does each and every Wizards game day. But we have a bunch of interviews that we've been holding. Some of you may have already consumed pieces of them or the entirety of them if you're a diehard on our YouTube page. But for much of the radio audience, you guys probably haven't. So we had a bunch of great interviews at Wizards Media Day. I think tomorrow, in honor of him getting an extension this weekend, we should run Denny's interview. So we'll have Denny Avia on the show tomorrow. Depending on what else happens, we might double up and give you some more. Maybe a Kyle Kuzma, something like that. There was the epic fight between Kuz and Denny that happened during Denny's interview, which is great. So you'll hear that if you missed it. So we'll do that tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we'll probably get you some Wes Unseld. We'll probably get you Kuz, or Corey Kispert was really good, so maybe we'll do Kispert. And Wednesday, we'll have a big celebration for the Wizards opening their season. And we'll celebrate so hard that we're going to end the show early at 6:45 because Dave and Glenn have a pregame show to do. Other than that, tomorrow, honestly, the segment that I'm looking forward to most tomorrow, Anthony, Linnell.
Ooh, I can't wait, baby.
And it's not because it's Overreaction Tuesday and Linnell's probably in a bad place and he could say something crazy. It's because last week, everybody killed him for saying that Sam Howell was holding the Commanders' offense back, and look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Craig, you have been clamoring for Linnell. Where are the spicy takes, Linnell? Where are they? And he delivered last week. So
he did, and then it was justified.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have to revisit that one. Although I feel like I've seen some Twitter takes from him that he might have got, like, he was a week ahead of time, and now he's been emboldened, and he might just be out over his skis.
Uh-oh.
So see what happens there. Pull him back in. Or just let him go and be like, I don't know, let's see what happens.
Fend for yourself,
Everybody
man.
loves a car crash. Oh, yeah. All right, any other housekeeping we got? Anything else tomorrow? Vibe Check Tuesday.
I think that's all, brother man.
All right, then it is time to end this here radio program with tradition, unlike truly any other.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Set into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All All right, so we all know what John Allen said. And if you haven't seen it, Anthony, how would you describe John Allen's outfit?
One word?
I don't need one word. I need like an actual description. Paint a picture for people.
Have you seen
all black?
Have you seen the Proud Family show at all?
I have not.
Oh, it looks like Sticky.
All right, so that's a reference that works for some. But he's got like sunglasses on. It's like an all black fit.
The do-rag.
Got the do-rag on.
Shades indoors.
And if we're not doing a good job, maybe Ryan Clark will. This was RC this morning on Get Up.
Greeny, when you walk up to the dude in the locker room and he got a do-rag with sunglasses and a chain on with the open chest, you finna get some bleeps. You walked into expletive. This man looked like show enough when this started. And he can't hear your question because he got on AirPods. He don't even know the question, y'all. This man chose violence. The sheer audacity of the outfit says, I don't give no F's, 0 of them. And if you want to run this on regular, syndicated, network TV, you can't.
That's hard, dude.
Look at my clothes, sir. Do I look like a man that is concerned with the rules? And last I checked, Jonathan Allen ain't got no waves.
Why you gotta do rag on?
So what you gotta do rag on?
Someone say something.
I can't.
That man chose violence.
All right. Well, that was a terrible.
The Washington Commanders has made this man lose all his professionalism.
He's like the most professional dude in the league.
The man's a captain.
He looked like Stephen A's guy.
Golly.
Looked like Stephen A's security guy.
Like security guard.
Juvie. All right, Juvie. As we continue.
Wow.
They were going in.
My favorite part is Green. I mean, it's not my favorite part, but one of the parts I like low-key enjoyed was Greeny just going, somebody say something. That is a white man who knows he is out of his element.
No, I mean, I don't know. John Allen, he really did look like he gave 0 F's.
I mean, Doc would say you're the expert here.
Yes.
Why is John Allen wearing a do-rag if he's got no waves?
That's a question I don't have an answer for.
You know who I'm not going to ask that question to?
You?
John Allen, because I don't want to get my ass. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It is the Hoffman Show. It is a Vibe Check Tuesday. Do not be late. Your phone call is starting at 4 o'clock here on the Team 980. Missed any part of the show? Check the podcast or check us out on YouTube.